Hey, it's great to be with you on this journey that I'm making on the Camino. And today I'm sharing with you my reflections from day four. Day four was my shortest walk of the entire Camino. If you remember and you follow the travails of my first 3 days, I did a great job of not respecting my body and not respecting the trail. And as a result, my body and the trail combined to uh, speak back loudly to me in a way that made me feel really interiorly, uh, um, physically, just like sick. Not like with a flu or anything, but just completely out of it. And I've been catching up since then. And this day was the start of my catching up process. And so the entire length of this trip was about 1 mile. It's just over a mile from one hotel to the other hotel in the two towns that were next to each other. And I basically stayed at the first hotel as long as I could, and I got the earliest possible check-in at the hotel I was going to. And the great majority of this day was spent just recovering. First of all, sleeping in, and they prepared a really wonderful breakfast for me. You know, they had promised a very voluminous breakfast, and they performed. The husband and wife owners of the pension that I was in had this wonderful scrambled eggs with some ham in it and some toast and some fruit and some other types of breads. And I could barely, I mean, I ate because I knew I needed to eat, not because I felt like I wanted to eat. That's how kind of out of it I was. But I knew I needed to get back my strength and marshal my strength for going forward. Uh, so I did that, went back to bed after I ate the breakfast. And again, slowly made my way up, out, and walked the mile to the hotel. Now, I wish I could say that was the end of it, but this mile was one of the most significant miles of the entire Camino so far. I know that sounds kind of strange. I mean, there's just going through one little town, and there's just a short little jaunt to the next town. You know, barely just a short quarter-mile road separating the two. But when I was leaving the town, there was there's a little festival going on, by the way, which was really cute because the kids were all dressed up in their, I don't know, town colors. So whatever the feast was, it was really kind of darling, and they kept setting off these fireworks, and kids were chasing after the candy that came down and things like that. Well, when I got just beyond Main Street, when I got be- when I got beyond the main stretch of the town, there was this little like path that ran alongside the road, and there was a kind of modern contemporary art piece of a sheet metal, but it was cut. Maybe it was iron cutout. It was an iron cutout, and I still don't even know the name of it. But what it appeared to be was that you were to walk along, get off the road, go down this little path, and then go through the cutout. So basically, it was a sign that you were sort of joining in with the pilgrims who have walked this path before. That I'm making that up. That was what it just seemed to me to fit, this idea that you're going to do what all these other people have done. Well, as I'm walking through this, and I continue to walk this again short road, the road opens up because the towns are on two different hills, and there's this very short valley between them, but it opens up to this beautiful vista where you can see for 10, 15 miles in just different directions. And I'm listening to praise and worship music that my daughter Mary Catherine had put together for me. And the first song was a Hallelujah, Praise God song, which I love. The song is very popular in our home. And then the second song that she put on has to do with how good God is. And the song starts talking about the blessings that go down through the generations. And what that makes me reflect on, because I'm going to talk to you about my weeping. Yeah, I started weeping and crying and totally caught off guard. This song has never, I've heard this song a number of times. My wife loves the song. We'll sometimes when we go to praise and worship, that song will be one of the songs played. And it has to do with, again, God's blessings that are poured out upon you and then upon your children and upon their children and then upon their children. And his favor is upon you for 1,000 generations, and his love will surround you and will go before you and behind you and around you and above you. So it brings me to another meaning of Camino, of pilgrimage. The idea that we are on a pilgrimage. And yesterday I had a chance to share about the idea. Like 2 days ago, I talked about walking, just the act of walking as a human act. And it's just built into our structure to have this sense of forward movement. But then that takes on a deeper meaning when we take into account the way that has been brought into our life of faith with this idea of walking, not only just walking with God, but the idea of walking towards God, right? That the journey of the great fathers of our faith, Abraham and Moses, and I told the stories of Enoch and Elijah as well, walking with God and then journeying because of God, journeying towards God, that our whole life is a journey. And the Camino has a great, it gives us a great gift. It gives us the opportunity to recover that sense of the journey that life is. Okay, so we got that. Well, what I got connected to was in that moment when I was in that short walk, was the connection that I have in my journey that's part of a larger set of journeys of my descendants and of my predecessors. That I'm caught in this, I've been born into this beautiful line of people who are on this same journey. And the way that became manifest to me was through this song. And as I was walking, remember now I'm walking this Camino as an act of prayer and penance and reparation, seeking blessings and mercies and graces for my own life, for Carrie, my wife's life, for our marriage, for our kids' lives, each of them and all of them. But I'm also praying for their vocations, so for their marriages, and therefore for any children that would come. And all of a sudden it started to unfold. It unfolded in this way. God's grace just started to unfold this reality that my walking and my praying and my interceding and my journeying and with these steps that I'm taking that are difficult and challenging and painful, that I'm actually connecting this reality of blessing and being a conduit of blessings, not only for my own kids, but for their kids, and for their kids, and for their kids. And that, what I just said to you, can seem so, okay, I can conceptually grasp it. No, this was something that it's like I encountered it as I was there. Remember now that the context was this big open vista and this song, their children and their children and their children, and the blessings that go before you, and the God is blessing these generations. And I started to just weep. I just started weeping when I was given this insight into the connection that my simple walk all by myself across northern Spain in 2024 is going to be used by God to be a conduit that God is using this to be a conduit of blessing down through the generations. And God does that. That's how big God is. But it didn't end there. There was a way in which it then started to have me connect backwards to my predecessors. And I realized that, theologically, in my family tree, there are likely members of my family who are still in purgatory. And so my prayers and penances and acts of reparation no, wait a minute, is bringing spiritual benefit into their lives and what they're experiencing right now as well. But it was even more than that. It was God and anticipated that in blessing my generations backwards. That there are generations that before me that had members of my own family. Lord was blessing them hundreds of years ago through the walk that I was making today. And that became palpable for me. That became like a living truth to me, not just an idea, a poetic thought, but a divinely ordained reality that the lives we live are not self-contained, and what the Lord does with those lives is not self-contained. That He uses our lives and the things that we're doing today to be a conduit, a source of blessing down the generations and back up the generations. But then there's more. Like, well, wait a minute, how much more is there? Well, all of a sudden it dawned on me, wait a minute, just like I can be a source of blessing for those that have come before me through the mystery of God's plan in this journeying through human history, through salvation history that God has for our lives, that God can do the same thing through my children's 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 children. And that the Lord was revealing to me, giving me this sense that there are those that are in the generations to come who, through their prayer and penance and acts of self-sacrifice, that they are winning blessings and graces for my life. And that, again, just led me to weep, just weeping and like sobbing, kind of weeping, right? And it wasn't sadness, it was feeling overwhelmed with God's love, God's mercy, God's um, his desire to bless, right? His shocking generosity, and then the last piece is that, Tom, you think here because of a decision you that you're here on the Camino because of what you and Carrie had set out on as a process and discernment back in at the end of May. And it's like, no. I've had some of your predecessors have had you in prayer, have won blessings for you for this moment in your life. And so all of a sudden, this connection, this Camino connection, this pilgrimage connection has layers and layers and layers of those who have come before me, those who will come after me, those who are walking with me, that there's this mutuality, this back and forth of blessing that is just, it's too much. It's too much. I thought of a couple of references, literary references. One is a book by Thomas Howard, a convert to Catholicism. He wrote a book called Chance or the Dance. And just take the title without digging into all the book, but it's worth reading. It's an amazing book. Chance or the Dance. Is everything just pure chance, right? Just a random result of evolution? Or is there something bigger going on? Is there a dance, a divine harmony that bring people together and move people together? And so that reality of the dance that we're caught up in. It reminds me of C.S. Lewis's book, Paralandra. And at the end of it, Ransom, the main character, gets to meet Adam and Eve, the Adam and the Eve of the planet, and how they didn't fall where our Adam and Eve fell. And he gets caught up in this epiphany. And what gets revealed is this dance, this orderly, harmonious, beautiful, swirling dance that just is this progression on, which is the reality of heaven. And so this theme of you're on this journey in life, right? That all of life is a journey. It's connected to, in very poignant, powerful, and unexpected ways, that how you live today is connected to those who have gone before you, as well as those who will come after you. And not to doubt that. Don't doubt how absolutely critical and important you are in God's plan. Hans Urs von Balthasar, in his book on the theology of history, talks about the way in which the life of one person, it can't be summed up in that own person's life, but the full meaning of one person's life isn't really known until everyone has lived their lives and we get to the final judgment, which will reveal the way in which our lives have been interconnected and have influenced each other. And in our case, of course, we're saying hopefully towards God and towards God's glory in our lives. So, well, that 1 mile walk led me to it was just a profound gift. And I got to rest a tremendous amount that day. I did very, very little, minimal walking. I was able to go to Mass. And I guess that should just be my final point. Going to Mass, I get to sit in these churches that are 500, 600, 700, 800 years old, and often built in connection to the Camino. And they're all the signs and art and architecture and symbols are all connected to walking this journey. And it becomes something of a commonplace that when you walk the Camino, you eventually realize that you're not walking it alone, that you're walking in the footsteps of so many not thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, but millions of pilgrims who have walked that journey before you. And so I think the hiking the Camino, it has been a gift to me, and I want to share that gift to you, that it unveils and strengthens this sensitivity that yes, our life is a journey. Yes, our life has a destination. And we'll talk more about that in future sessions, in other meanings of that. But don't forget this other meaning, this meaning that we're part of this heritage and legacy, right? This inheritance and this legacy of others who have been on that journey as well. All right. Okay, God bless you guys.